Hi, algebra students. We're actually going to do a really quick topic today that you already sort of know, but I just want to make sure that we are very clear on it. And so this is a new unit. Remember, this is unit 5. So if you want to make a note of that at the top of your page after our last unit test on slope. We're not going to forget about slope, but we are going to move on. And so unit 5 is actually called, there's actually a bunch of different topics within this unit. I like to call this unit line of best fit and direct and inverse variation. Now, I know that's a really long unit title, but that is what is going to be contained within this unit. Now, the very first thing we're going to talk about, though, is because we're gonna review a little bit of what we have talked about before about intercepts. And so this page before we actually start anything about line of best fit or variation, this page is going to be called X and Y intercepts. And so we just need to know a couple of connections between the equation and the graph. And so we're just going to write down a definition. First, the x-intercept, and we've looked at these before, is the point that a line crosses the x-axis. This happens when, let's say it like this. This happens when the y value is 0. And so let's look at an example of this. So if I were to give you the equation, let's say 3x minus 5y equals 15. And if you wanted to know where the x-intercept was, the x-intercept, again, mind you, the way you would find this is you would make the y value 0. And so all we would do, and I'll show you why this is true on the graph, but looking for the x-intercept, so we would say 3x minus 5. If I'm looking for the x, I want the x to remain, but I'm going to change y into 0. And so I would just plug in a 0 where I see y. And then I would solve this equation. So 3x minus 5 times 0 is 0 is equal to 15. And 3x minus 0 is 0. So that whole part actually goes away. 3x minus 0 is 3x is equal to 15. And then when you divide by 3, you get x is equal to 5. And so your x-intercept is 5. That would be the x-intercept. And on a graph, of course, let me bring up Desmos here. The equation, of course, was, and I don't even have to do anything with 0 if I'm typing it in here, 3x minus 5y is equal to 15. So 3x minus 5y is equal to 15. 3x is equal to 5y. Minus 5y is equal to 15. And all I have to do is, once I type that in Desmos, all I have to do is go here to the graph and actually click on the x-axis and the coordinate point. And if I click, there it is, I click on it, it's 5. 5, 0 is the x-intercept. It's where the graph crosses the x-axis. And of course, like I said, it's when the y value is 0, which is why this works. So we just need to know the connection between plugging in a 0 for y into an equation and actually solving it. But at the end of the day, guys, you can type this in Desmos and actually see physically where it crosses the x-axis. So let's now, so that's the x-intercept, is where it crosses the x-axis. Let's talk about the y-intercept, which we have talked about now for a long time. The y-intercept is the point that a line crosses the y-axis. That's no surprise. We've been dealing with that since we've done y equals mx plus b. So this happens when the x value is 0. And so, again, we're dealing with y-intercept, and so that would be when the x value is 0. Now, again, you could, if you're given an equation, so let's say x plus 2y is equal to 6. If I want to know what the y-intercept is, all I have to do is go plug in a 0 for the x. So I want to solve for y, so I'm just going to put a 0 in where I see x, and that's actually going to go away. Plus 2y is equal to 6. Well, on this side, 0 plus 2y is still just 2y is equal to 6. Divide by 2, and you get y is equal to 3. And that's, again, that's how it's solved in the equation form, and I just need to show you that. But, again, the good news of Desmos is that it was the equation, you could type it in, it was x plus 2y is equal to 6. And, of course, we can find the y-intercept by just clicking on the y-intercept on the graph. And so Desmos makes this part of this unit a whole lot easier. So basically what you're going to be given is this equation, and you're just going to type it in Desmos and find the intercept. It does not have to be solved like this, although you could, right? You could plug the 0 in for the missing value and then solve the equation. But again, I like it just looking at it from the graph perspective. So 3 was the y-intercept here. So just at the very end of this notes page, I'm just going to give you a couple of equations, and we're just going to attempt to find the x and y intercepts, all right? So the first one I want you to try is 2x minus 4y is equal to 16, and I want to know what is the x-intercept and what is the y-intercept of this equation. And then let's try something like 3x minus 6y is equal to, let's do plus 6y, is equal to 18, and I want to know the x-intercept, and I want to know the y-intercept. So go ahead and, again, you could plug in 0, but type that equation into Desmos and see if you can find the x and y intercepts. Maybe pause the video, go and try that and see if you can fill in these blanks. All right, so I hope that you use Desmos in order to find the x and y intercepts, and so let's go ahead and do that. So the first equation was 2x minus 4y is equal to 16. Now, of course, you could go and you could plug in your zeros and solve the equation, but Desmos will tell us, and make sure that you keep these straight. Make sure you keep the x and the y straight. The x-intercept here, of course, is on the x-axis, and that is 8. So x-intercept would just be what we would call 8, and the y-intercept would be -4. And so that would be our x and y intercepts for that equation. The second equation, and again, you just want to type this into Desmos, so it's 3x plus 6y is equal to 18. And we look at that on the graph, and again, all you're looking for is your x and y intercepts. So our x-intercept here is 6, and our y-intercept is 3. And that is all that you really need to know about x and y intercepts. Now, we're going to use these a little later on, and of course, we've already looked a lot at y-intercepts. The moral of the story of this practice today, guys, is that we know that the x-intercept is where y is 0. We know that the y-intercept is where x is 0. You can solve that, but you can also use Desmos. Oh, why did I write a B? That should be a D for Desmos. Use Desmos to type in these equations and graphically find the x and y intercept. On your practice today, make sure you read the directions very carefully about, is it asking for x or is it asking for y? That's the biggest way, is just to confuse between the x and the y. So you're going to do the practice. You're going to go ahead and take the quiz on this stuff today because it's very, very straightforward, very easy, and we're actually going to start something new and different tomorrow. Email me if you have questions.